Go ahead and turn to Joshua chapter 8. I'll pick up at the end. Let me say thank you. What a privilege it is to come. And I love my day job. Working for you and 1,900 other churches. I did my day job Monday night. I was at a meeting Monday night. I'm blessed, and a lot of that is thanks to Alcorn Baptist. But I was at a meeting Monday night where I talked to the governor, Tate Reeves. I talked to the two leading candidates for governor. 2 years from now, I talked to the Speaker of the House, Jason White. And so what I get to do talking to our elected leaders is a blessing. And we get to remind them that the Bible should be a factor in all of our decisions, and especially in our legislation. And then my night job, I did it this morning. I preached at a Bible conference this morning down at Hobo Station, southeast of Boonville, at a church called Little Creek Baptist Church, packed house, the Jubilee. So thank you for what I get to do, and what a joy to get to come to Calvary and finish up Joshua for the 14th time. And a week from Sunday at a church in Laurel, Mississippi, I'll do Joshua for the 15th time. That may just about wrap it up. And so you're good to me. Brother Chuck's been good to me. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I promised, and we're not going to turn this into a watch night service, but I promised you that I would give you opportunity to ask questions. I'm not killing time. I've got plenty I can do, but I'd rather redeem the time. Something you read getting ready for Sunday and tonight, something I said Sunday, something you read this morning over a cup of coffee. I want to give you that opportunity, and then I'll plunge on in and redeem the time. But do any of you have a question? Because there's no way I can cover all 26 years of Joshua. Any question from anyone? Okay. They have crossed the Jordan. They have conquered Jericho. But after stopping off at Gilgal, where the reproach was rolled away. That's what I preached on this morning. Don't skip Gilgal. Then they get whipped up at Ai. They go back up there, get sent out of the camp, and they conquer Ai. And then here at the end of chapter 8, they come to Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. They put half of Israel on Ebal, and they put half of Israel on Gerizim. And you've heard of antiphonal singing, where two groups sing back and forth to each other, or you can just talk back and forth, like reading a responsive reading, where the pastor reads the line and you read a line, and that's what they did from Ebal to Gerizim. Ebal was the mount of cursing, and Gerizim was the mount of blessing. And basically what they did, they read the law back and forth as a reminder that if they obeyed the law, they'd stay in the promised land, land full of milk and honey. If they neglected the law, went into idolatry, disobeyed God. So do you want to be on Mount Ebal? Or do you want to be on Mount Gerizim? And I love that choice. I know it has to do with card playing, and the executive director of the CAC shouldn't reference card playing, but we've all heard Deuce is Wild. and I do a sermon all the way through the Bible where it's two choices. Do you want the tree of life or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Do you want Cain or Abel? Do you want, all the way through the Bible, there's these two choices. Do you want the straight way, the narrow way? Do you want the broad way? Do you want a foundation of sand or do you want a foundation on the rock? Deuce is wild. Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. Deuce is wild. And it's up to Kenny Digby if I want to live on Mount Ebal or do I want to live on Mount Gerizim. It's my choice. If I obey God, I can be blessed. If I disobey God, I'll be cursed. Well, when they get through at Mount Gerizim and Ebal, it's time to chop up the family farm. Who's going to get the bottom land? Who's going to get the back 40? And they meet a group of people. They're called Gibeonites. And God had told Israel, I want everybody in Canaan annihilated. You say, that bothers me. God's not on trial. Whatever God decides to do, it'll be the right thing. Let me explain again. In Israel, wiping out the Canaanites, it's not for Israel. You say, but they're the ones going to take it over. But I'm telling you, the wickedness of the Canaanites is what dictated their destruction. Israel is just simply the instrument that God uses. Everybody says, that thing of Israel killing off the American Indian so that the United States could have all that property. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here, the Canaanites have been idolatrous and wicked and sacrificing their babies to the god Molech. And sounds sort of like abortion, doesn't it? But anyway, I'm just wanting you to understand that wiping out the Canaanites is not for the benefit of Israel. Wiping out the Canaanites is what they deserved. And God told Israel, don't compromise, don't make any treaties with any of the Canaanites. I want them all gone, or they'll lead you off into idolatry. If you leave Canaanites in the land, it's like leaving poison ivy in your flower bed. You're going to pay for it later. So they've been told, don't make a treaty with anybody, and they meet these Gibeonites, and the Gibeonites say, hey, we've traveled a long way. We've come from thousands of miles away. We want to make a treaty with y'all. And Joshua said, well, now we can't make a treaty with anybody that's in Canaan. Oh, we're not in Canaan. We're from way off. Now, what was the circumstantial evidence that they showed Joshua and the Israelites? Circumstantial evidence that they showed the Israelites to prove that they're not anywhere in Canaan. They said, when we left home, our shoes were new. And they were worn slap out. And then they said, this bread came hot out of the oven. Now look at it, it's moldy, crusty. Oh, hand me that wineskin. This wineskin was brand new when we left home. Look at it now. Folks, can I assure you, in a court of law, circumstantial evidence is not very legitimate. And it shouldn't have been with the Gibeonites. here's one of those cases. You don't hear anything else I say tonight. Here's one of those cases. If Joshua would have just called time out and said, how about it? What would God have done? God would have said, don't have nothing to do with them. Kill them. They're Canaanites. But for whatever the reason, Joshua didn't do that. The elders didn't do that. The priests didn't do, for whatever the reason, they did not call time out. They didn't ask God, and they made a treaty with the Gibeonites. The next day, Israel breaks camp. They're dividing up the land, and they go around the next corner, and guess who they find living there? The Gibeonites. If we would just simply call time out. What? Do you want me to take that promotion they're offering me? It means moving my family to Nashville. God, do we want to sell this house and buy that bigger house that we've always wanted? Young people, is this who you want me to date? If we would just simply call time out. He'll tell us, the Bible says in James 1:5, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask God that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given. I've never asked God anything. He didn't answer me sooner or later. Now, he doesn't always answer by 4 o'clock that afternoon. There's been a time or two I fasted for quite a while. But he's always told me what to do. And I'm simply saying, call time out. So when they turn the corner, what are y'all doing here? Thought you lived in Asia. And you want to add insult to injury. Later, other Canaanites heard about the treaty. Are y'all with me? Other Canaanites heard about the treaty between Israel and the Gibeonites, and they attacked the Gibeonites. What did Israel have to do? You talk about adding insult to injury. When the other Canaanites attacked the Gibeonites, what did Israel have to do? Defend them. Israel had to go in and defend the folks that they were supposed to destroy. So if we would just simply call, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to talk to my wife this afternoon about a decision I need to make. And it's not running for governor, okay? So don't register. But I've got a decision I got to make. Might not seem like a big decision, but it could be a big decision. Do I keep booking every week of the year like I do? Like I do coming here? Or do I go to that, one of the biggest churches in North Mississippi want me as interim? Are you with me? Now don't repeat this because I don't need no rumors. You hear me? Y'all didn't hear this, okay? I'm just saying there's decisions every day. There's decisions every day. That phone call came today. I asked my wife. She said, that ain't my decision. If we would simply call time out. That's what I got to do. I got to call time out. And just say, hey, is it itinerant? Or do I do some itinerant? I can do either one with the CAC. The CAC is my day job. So I'm just simply saying there's a lesson to be learned here. Now, please stay with me. I like this. You may not like it, but I like it. And basketball fans are going to catch this better than the rest of you. But if you do not call timeout, God will call a, say it louder. And I hadn't shared any of this with her. She's just a smart young lady. I know it also should worry you that she sort of halfway thinks like I do. That ought to really worry you, Chuck. Are y'all hearing me? We either call a timeout. Say, what do you think? Or he will call a, say it one more time for me. He'll call a technical. Good lesson. Boy, I wish some teenagers could understand that. I wish some young people could understand. But I'll tell you something. We senior citizens need to learn that. Okay. Now, let's move on. I want you to look at chapter 13. Hang on a minute. Look at chapter 13, verse 1. 13, verse 1. Would anybody volunteer to read that? I know you get tired of hearing me. Anybody? 13:1. And Joshua was old and stricken in years, and the Lord said unto him, Thou art old and stricken in years, and there remaineth yet very much land to be possessed. Now this is the dilemma I mentioned to y'all Sunday, and I want to be sure and answer it before I leave here. And yet, the Bible is real clear. It says that they had conquered all of the land. Now, which is it? Have they conquered it all? Or is there still much land to be possessed? Have they finished the job? Or is there still work to do? Look at chapter 11, verse 23. Chapter 11, verse 23. So Joshua took the whole land. Are y'all with me? Now, I hope you remember what I said. When it looks like the Bible contradicts itself, the problem's not the Bible, the problem is my ignorance. But very clearly, 11:23 says Joshua took the whole land. Chapter 13, verse 1 says, there remaineth yet very much land to be possessed. Now let me tell you how I resolve this. Trying to be honest, trying to be legit. There's a big difference in conquering and occupying. Stay with me. There's a big difference between conquering and occupying. When George W. Bush flew in, landed on the aircraft carrier, got out of the plane, all the headlines and all the newspapers said mission accomplished. We had conquered most, if not all, of Afghanistan. But then we had conquered it. But occupying Afghanistan, a horse of a different color. So that, whether that satisfies you or not, it satisfies me. That they conquered it all. But they didn't occupy. Let me illustrate it from history 2 other ways. When did the Revolutionary War end? What battlefield? I've been there. God's good. I've been able to mix a lot of business and pleasure, doing revivals, preaching. Where supposedly did the British realize they were whipped? They flew their flag upside down. Their band played the world upside down as they exited the fort. Anybody know where that is? Yorktown. Yorktown, Virginia, just north of Jamestown. Now, supposedly, that's where the Revolutionary War ended, because they loaded up on their ships and went back to England. That's not where the Revolutionary War ended. Anybody want to tell me, when did the Revolutionary War end? Anybody want to take a guess? The War of 1812. The British literally burned our White House. Burned it in 1812. They did not accept that we had independence until after the War of 1812. Let me do another one right quick. Where and when did the Civil War end? And again, I'm so blessed. I've been there. Where and when, supposedly, where Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant? Appomattox Courthouse. And crazy thing, it ain't a courthouse. That's the name of the town. It happened in a dwelling house. That's not where the Civil War ended. Quantrell's riders. There was war in Kansas and Missouri for years after Appomattox Courthouse. What famous pair of brothers was part of the Civil War that continued long after Appomattox Courthouse? What 2 brothers am I talking about? Frank and Jesse Jackson. I have visited their home, where the railroad destroyed their family, injured their family, threw a grenade, what we call it, into the living room. One member of Frank and Jesse James' family was blinded. Yeah, they had a right to be mad, but they were fighting the Union Army. I'm just simply saying, when the Bible says the war in Canaan is over, they did not clean out Jerusalem until David was king. That's why it's called the city of David. So that's how I harmonize it. Hopefully that's helpful to you. I'm going to say it one final time. When it appears the Bible contradicts itself, the problem is not the Bible. The problem is my ignorance. Can I make a little practical suggestion to you? When somebody walks up to you and says, well, what about all those contradictions in the Bible? don't load their gun. Don't start in saying, oh, so you're talking about such a, don't load their gun. And they walk up and say, what about all those contradictions in the Bible? You'll say, okay, show me one. That makes life a lot easier if you don't load their gun. Okay? Any questions at this point? Now, let's keep going. Basically, the book of Joshua is dividing up the promised land. They probate the will. I mean it. They divide up the family farm. Now, something very, very important you need to be mindful of. Look at chapter 18. A place, you've heard it in the pulpit and in the Sunday school room for years. You probably don't really understand why it is so significant. But in chapter 18, Shiloh. Shiloh was the spiritual capital of the promised land long before Jerusalem became the spiritual capital. So if you remember people talking about that Samuel lived at Shiloh. Somebody went to Shiloh. When they conquer the land, Shiloh becomes the spiritual capital. Then later, it'll move to Jerusalem. Where was the first U.S. capital? You say, boy, you like history. Yeah, I do. I like history. Where was the first U.S. capital? What? Philadelphia. For what? New York City, I believe I'm correct, started out. Keep in mind, Washington didn't even get built till quite a while later. What was, where we go to Washington, I love Washington, and you know, so many families never visit Washington. Man, Smithsonian museums are free. It's one of the cheapest vacations you can take. What was at the beginning, when Philadelphia and New York were the capital, what was actually on the property where Washington, D.C. is? Anybody know? And I don't charge extra for all this history. It was a swamp. It was an absolute swamp. Building Washington, D.C., malaria was a real problem. That's why you have all the bodies of water there, and you have the Potomac River. It was a swamp, but they drained it, and they started all those pools and made it the beautiful place, and it is a beautiful place. So I just wanted you to notice chapter 18. Shiloh is the spiritual capital for quite a while. Chapter 20. I love chapter 20. These folks lived under the law. When they left Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, they rendezvoused with God at Mount Sinai, and they got the law. More than just the 10 Commandments, they got the law. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You kill my loved one, I'll kill your loved one. That's the law. But here, they set up, chapter 20, they set up cities of refuge. So what are we talking about? Now, I've told you in years past, if you can picture the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, and the Dead Sea, you're in pretty good shape, your Bible geography. You really are. Sea of Galilee nearly looks like a pear. Jordan River, Dead Sea. It looks like a long, skinny kidney. Now look, on the West Bank, they put 3 cities in the Promised Land where the Israelites live. They put one in the north, one in the central, one in the south. Later, over here on the East Bank, they'll put one in the north, one in the central, and one in the south. That's because of what? Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh. Permissive will. So you have 6 cities of refuge. The idea is somebody can get there pretty quickly. If you just have one city of refuge way up north and you're down here, you're going to have a tough time getting there. Now, what the issue here is, murder and manslaughter. Murder and manslaughter. If you committed murder, you say, what? First degree? I'm no lawyer. I can't get into first degree, second degree. I can't get into all of that. I just know murder, manslaughter. Okay? Murder, it is premeditated and it's willful. Okay? If somebody in a fit of rage loses their temper and kills somebody, that is not murder. I'm sorry. In a fit of rage, lose their temper, kill somebody, that's not murder. That's manslaughter. If you get drunk and run over a child and kill him, that's not murder. That's manslaughter. So are you with me? Murder, manslaughter. The reason we've got cities of refuge, 6 of them, is if you accidentally kill somebody. If you committed manslaughter, the avenger of blood is still going to come after you, even though it was manslaughter. Your bull gored to death your neighbor. The avenger of blood's coming after you. If your bull killed his brother, he's going to kill you. He said, but that's not right. That's why we got the cities of refuge. So if you committed manslaughter, you could run to the nearest city of refuge, and if you could get in before he killed you, he couldn't touch you. But only for manslaughter. If you committed murder, the city of refuge didn't help you. But if you committed manslaughter. Now, if you left the city of refuge, you're on your own. So if he's hid out behind a clump of trees out there, and you think, well, I've been here a couple of weeks, surely he went home. If you left the city of refuge, he could kill you. Now, the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. What story have we already talked about? That if somebody was in a certain location, they were safe, but if they left that location, they'd probably get killed. Good. Rahab, they told her, get all your loved ones inside your house, and as long as they're inside your house, they won't be harmed. But if they leave your house and they get killed, we're not responsible. So there's a real similarity here between the cities of refuge and Rahab's house. Now, Rahab's house had nothing to do with manslaughter and murder. One more thing on this, and I'll move on. How long did you have to stay in the city of refuge? How long did you have to stay there so that the guy waiting on you couldn't kill you? There is a cutoff. Anybody know what it is? After a particular time period, you could actually go back home. If you committed manslaughter now, not murder, manslaughter. Who knows what the cutoff was?
After the guy died.
The high priest. Good. Good sister. After the high priest died. If the high priest died the next day, you could go home and the avenger could not touch you. But if the high priest didn't die for 37 years, you're going to have to stay in the city of refuge for 37 years. You say, what's the point of that? I think it's a picture that when we get saved, we enter the city of refuge. And we don't ever leave. Can you answer me? When we get saved, I think going into the city of refuge picture is getting saved just like entering Noah's Ark. Are y'all with me? You understand. Noah's Ark picture of salvation. So I think entering the city of refuge, are we guilty of debt? The wages of sin is what? Debt. I think entering the city of refuge is picturing us getting saved. And we can't leave until when? The high priest dies. And guess what? The high priest never dies. Our high priest never dies. That's why I tell everybody where I go, if saved, always saved. I like it. Okay. Let's keep moving. My time's getting away from me. I love this study, and you've been good to me, and I love doing it. Stay with me. When Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh kept their promise. Y'all remember? If you don't keep your promise, be sure your sins find you out. So what did the soldiers of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh, what did they have to do? They had to lead the nation of Israel into the promised land, help win the victory, and then they, Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh, could go back to the east bank where their children and their cattle were. Now watch. And you've got to look at it from this perspective. This is the Jordan River. This is the west bank. Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. They have won the victory. They kept their word. Now they're going to go back over there where their families are, because it was good for their cattle. Okay. Here's what happens here in this story. When they got to the Jordan River, they're fixing to swim back across, or at the very least, ford it. They said, now, we don't want to ever forget we're Jews, and we're still going to have to come back over here to Shiloh. So they built a memorial. I know the King James called it an altar, but they built a memorial. And they said, we want this memorial to always remind us we're still part of Israel. And we've still got to come back over here to Shiloh, because there's only one Ark of the Covenant. There's only one tabernacle. There's only one temple. So they built a memorial. Where do you think they might have got the idea of stacking up a bunch of rocks and making a memorial? Where maybe did they get that idea? There were 12 stones in the bottom of the Jordan River, and there were 12 stones on the West Bank. Well, that's where they got that in. Now here's where gossip becomes a problem. And social media can really be a problem. They built that memorial. They had no intention of substituting it for what's at Shiloh. They had no intention of offering blood sacrifices on this pile of rocks, any more than they offered blood sacrifices on the 12 stones. It's just a symbol. But the Israelites saw on Facebook or Instagram, I don't know which it was, they saw where Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh had already built a false idol. And so the other 9.5 tribes said, Stephen Curtis Chapman, saddle up your horses. Okay, I can't sing. And the 9.5 tribes are going to go wipe out Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh for idolatry. And here's another lesson. Same song, second verse. The 9.5 tribes catch up to Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. And they said, now we're fixing to kill you, but we want you to know why we're killing you. Your idolatry, your false idols, your pagan altar. And Reuben, Gad, Manasseh said, what are you talking about? Well, you build a fake altar. They said, that's not an altar. That's a reminder. Our pile of stones ain't any different from our pile of stones. This pile of stones ain't any different than 18 or the 12. I don't know where I got 18. Multiply. And they said, we have no intention of worshiping anywhere other than Shiloh. We have no intention of offering our sacrifices anywhere other than Shiloh. That pile of rocks is simply a reminder that we need to come back to Shiloh. Now, here again, same song, second verse, and I'll move on. There are times when we not only need to call time out and talk to him, there are times we need to call time out and talk to each other. Would you agree with that? There are times we need to call time out and talk to each other, because a lot of mistakes get made because people do not communicate, and people, I don't use the word assume, I use the word presume. Keeps me out of trouble. Are you hearing me? What if the 9.5 tribes had not at least talked to them before they killed them? That'd been a sad thing. I'm just simply saying, we need to call time out for both reasons. We need to call time out if we need to talk to God, or we need to call time out if we need to talk to each other. Now, let's go a little farther and we'll quit. In chapter 1, you don't have to turn back over there unless you want to. In chapter 1, God tells Joshua something 4 times. In chapter 1, in one chapter. Anybody remember what God told Joshua? I mean, he's replacing an icon. He's replacing Moses. It's like replacing Nick Saban at Alabama. And Ole Miss is still looking for Johnny Ball. That's the guy out there, the little statue of the guy in the, okay, I'll move on. What did God tell Joshua 4 times in chapter 1? Go for it, anybody.
Be strong and very courageous.
Be strong, be courageous. 4 times. 3 times in 4 verses, and then at the very end of chapter 1, he says it again. Be strong, be courageous. I speak at a lot of man church things and men's ministry, and that's really a favorite of mine. Be strong, be courageous. Your wife needs you to be strong, be courageous. Your children need you to be strong, be courageous. God says to Joshua, this nation needs you to be strong, be courageous. That'd be my challenge to all of you, man, woman, whoever. Be strong, be courageous. So that's how you start chapter 1. Okay, now turn to the last chapter, verse 15. That's how I want to close tonight. If the book begins, be strong, be courageous. How does the book end? Chapter 24, verse 15. Somebody read it for me. Anybody volunteer? Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. Anybody? Thank you, sister.
And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
What could happen today in our nation? What could happen today in our churches? What could happen today in our homes if we just had some men and women, mamas and daddies, that would be strong, be courageous. Men and women that say, I don't know what you're going to do, but I can tell you what we're going to do. Choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Brother Chuck.